What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. This is the Nerdwide podcast, episode 124. I am your different voice host tonight, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Chris Rivers. Now, Chris, it's been 2 weeks since we've done the
We're
podcast.
changing voices this week.
I'm a little sinusy, good old Tennessee weather.
Right.
But how have you been the past 2 weeks? We've seen each other and hung out and went and watched one of our movies this week. But other than that, how have you been? It's been 2 weeks. I've been in Texas. I've been several states away, been several states back. How are you?
I'm good. It's day 4 of 4 in a row of being off work, so that's nice. I haven't done much of anything. I've slept a lot. Madden came out this weekend, so
Oh, that's right.
yeah, so I've been playing some Madden and watching our movies and our shows and just in general being a bum.
You gotta do it. That's how I felt I was this week, but I was sickly, I guess is the word I'm looking for. I'm not contagious or anything. It's just like I've got that post-nasal drip where my throat is just hurting and I'm just very snotty.
Right.
So it's the temperature changed randomly and that cold front came through, but now we're back into our normal weather and it's going to be a cold front again on Saturday. And I'm just like, I can't win. Okay. I can't win. But I went to Texas, a lot of fun, a lot of good food.
Yeah.
Drank more alcohol than I drink in 2 years in one night.
Yeah.
So that was, I'm not just no spring chicken anymore. So that affects me a lot differently than it did back in the day.
Did you have some Tex-Mex?
No, I had a Mexican down there, and he was going to take me to Corbin. I wanted to visit my cousin. He was going to take me to like one of these, not really hole in the wall Mexican place, but like authentic Mexican food kind of place. But we were hungover that day. We were going to go, so we said, let's just forget about it. Let's just hang out and relax. But, a lot of barbecue, a lot of great barbecue. And I've been dreaming about it since. So, but other than that, it's been how my 2 weeks have been. Work's been crazy. We're going through some changes there, but nothing extreme, but enough to mess with me a little bit. And then just flying in and out of Texas and then being back home. We went and watched a movie this week. We went and watched Blue Beetle together. It's always fun, hanging out, watching movies with you. We always have a lot of fun doing that. And I'm excited to talk about it spoiler free. But there is something else I want to talk about.
Uh-oh.
We finally started it, Chris. We have started the Nerdwide vlog. And for those of you who don't know, this is something Chris and I have talked about for a couple of weeks now. And I finally pulled the trigger this past week. Just recording a 3 to 5 minute video, either on the way into work, on the way out of work, or just whenever I can. Just answering questions or just talking about something nerdy. So this week, I think the first one was, what game am I playing right now? And what am I excited for? I think my second one that I put up was, what's my favorite superhero movie of 2023 so far?
Yeah, and then the last one was favorite console.
Yeah, favorite console and generation and why. And that was a fun one to answer and to think about. And then get a bunch of feedback on all of those questions and seeing people's answers down in the comments was a lot of fun. A lot of engagement out of those across like Twitter and Threads and then the YouTube comments as well. So if you haven't seen any of those, go check them out. And if you've got any questions you want me to answer, post them down in the comments or post on any of like our Twitter post or any of our socials or Threads on. We're getting ready to bring Nerdwide over to Threads. So be sure to be looking out for that and Facebook as well.
I'll be doing vlogs eventually. Tyler told me if it took off, he was like, you need to do some too.
Yeah, I mean, they're fun. It's 3 to 5 minutes. And it's real easy to do.
Yeah. And I'll probably do mine the way that you do yours on my way to work or something.
Just because I got my little phone holder up there on the Jeep and just sit there and drive and just talk and ramble aimlessly sometimes. So
and yell at other drivers.
And,
I mean, that's what I'll do.
Well, that was a stupid way to turn. Why would you? It's just dumb fun things like that. So make sure you're checking that out. And if you got any feedback on any of those, I think the audio I've got where you don't hear too much road noise going and things like that. There's a cool app on there that makes everything real easy, and it's free. So there's if you got any not criticism, but like any feedback or anything, just let me know down in the comments. So, a quick housekeeping before we jump into our show. Don't forget to subscribe to either our YouTube or podcasting service of your choice. If you enjoy our show, make sure you leave us a thumbs up on YouTube or give us a good rating on whatever podcasting app you do use. If you don't enjoy the show, let us know down in the comments what we can do to improve. Is audio bad? Video bad? Want us to talk about something different? Things like that. Anything that can improve a show, let us know. Can't improve it if we don't know if it's broken. If you want to do more, you can always go to patreon.com/nerdwide. 3 different tiers for 3 different monetary monthly subscription values, all ranging from I think $3 to $7 or $10 is the max per month. And you can let us know what you want us to watch, what you want us to review, read, play, any of that kind of stuff. That is the spot to do it. But other than that, Chris, have you watched anything TV-wise these past 2 weeks?
No. I'm trying to think if there was anything last week that I may have forgotten to go ahead and put down, but I don't. The Ric Flair documentary was a couple of shows ago, I think.
Yeah, we talked about that one.
So I don't think there was anything. Last week was a lot of work for me, and then this week I had time.
I feel like I haven't been really watching anything.
Yeah,
even like
I've
during the
been
plane
watching
and stuff.
the strike.
Yes, I mean keeping up with that, and still nothing. By the way, like I think 2 Fridays ago, whereas like when they were supposed to sit down for another deal, obviously did not make a deal.
I don't think we're going to get a resolution for at least another couple of months because
Mm-mm.
I shared a video with you. We're going to talk about it next week.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, some of the studios that have the money are loving the fact that they're not spending money right now because nothing's in production.
Makes no sense to me.
No.
But it's world we live in. But we will talk about that next week's gonna be an exciting week for the podcast because we get to do our one of our annual things that I really enjoy get to do. It's just gonna be an all-out fun week, and potentially we even get to see each other hang out for a couple hours together next weekend as well. So should be a lot of fun.
Like 4 or 5 hours.
Hopefully, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. That's the game plan. Yeah, I don't like even on the plane ride or anything. I read books or played on my phone, which is the thing to do now, I guess.
Yeah.
Didn't watch anything new besides Big Brother and live feeds because that is my life now. But for our TV shows to review, My Adventures with Superman, we're going to be talking about episode 7 and episode 8, which episode 8 was a banger, by the way. But episode 7, which is a fun one, we'll talk about right now, and a lot of little cameos in here. After Clark shows Lois and Jimmy his spaceship and clarifies his incomplete alien origin, Clark and Lois plan their first date. However, he's interrupted by Mr. Mixelpilic. Or Mixie. I'm going to call it Mixie because I know I cannot pronounce that correctly.
Isn't it like Mixapilic?
Mixapilic, because there's the T in there at the end, and
yeah,
which is a multiversal imp who, if you watch Supergirl, if you ever watched the Supergirl series on CW, he was in it for 3 episodes, like across all the seasons, who deceives him into helping him steal a recorder from a museum on Earth-1, revealing Clark is from the planet Krypton in the process. Meanwhile, Lois and Jimmy are recruited by the Multiversal League of Lois Lanes to help them stalk Mixie and Clark. Suspicious of their intentions, Lois searches their files, stumbling into the redacted File X. Upon finding them, the League attack Clark, while Mixie hijacks the League's vessel and travels to their headquarters with the recorder and Lois's help. As she steals the original File X, he retrieves his hat, regains his full strength, and causes chaos until Superman distracts him, allowing Lois to depower him and Jimmy to restrain him. While the League arrests Mixie, Jimmy's counterpart, Jelana, secretly brings the interns back to their native Earth-12, where Clark and Lois finish their date. Following this, she opens File X and finds recordings of evil alternate universe Supermen, and a sample of a green crystal the League used to injure Superman. Now, when Mixie is going through, when he goes to steal that recorder, he has a little line of and shows Clark that there's multiple Clarks and Superman. And did you catch on a couple of those cameos in there from the previous animated shows? I thought that was really really cool.
Yeah.
And then they did the same thing with Lois and her the headquarters. You see the
Yeah.
different versions from the other animated shows
Black
as
and
well.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Again, animation is completely on point with this show.
I love that they gave us an alternate universe Jimmy as well.
And it was Jolana,
Yeah.
and it's always a part of it. And it was also what do they call them, Firebirds, Flame Birds, or something like that.
Um, what what was that?
Trying to, I wonder if Wikipedia's got it. I think the Flame Birds. I don't want to say Firebirds because that's a car and a song.
Yeah.
So I think Flame Birds, but they're part of that little YouTube
Yeah.
organization. So it's kind of cool to see that. We got we found out what planet he's actually from, and we found essentially kryptonite hurts him. Is one of the only things that does hurt him, and now Lois has a crystal of it.
And it's interesting that in this version he doesn't know where he's from
Mm-mm.
because in the actual origin story he finds out when he's younger.
Right.
He so and I don't remember in the original origin story how he finds out about kryptonite offhand.
Man,
It's
me either. I know in Smallville, just
yeah,
random rock, but so it's a good show. This is a fun little. I feel like I really enjoy this show because we have little cameos and nice little comic story nods. Like with Supergirl, like and Superman and Lois, a lot of these would take a long time for us to get to these kind of cameos. But I feel like we've got each episode is something cool like that. There's a nice little comic story put into it.
I wonder if we'll get mention of, well, he probably doesn't know about Kara.
Mm-mm. Oh, you'd think not because we don't even know, and he's still awakening his powers too,
Yeah.
which plays into the
So I
next
wonder.
episode. But it's I don't know.
I wonder.
Like, do we
I
get a
wonder if we get
Supergirl?
probably next season.
I'd be down for that. That'd be a lot of fun.
She pops in, and at first Lois is jealous because she doesn't know who she is.
Mm-hmm. And then we find out it's his actual cousin and
Yeah.
Supergirl. It'll be a lot of fun. All right, let's look at this next one because I'm really excited and I really enjoyed this one, and I did not want it to end. Titled Episode 8, titled Zero Day Part 1. After developing superhero and hearing everyone in the city crying for help, Clark runs himself ragged, helping everyone and soon becomes sleep deprived and weakened. When Vicky Vale arrives to cover his activities, nice little cameo. I thought that was
Yeah.
really cool from Gotham. Lois is starstruck to meet her, only to be disappointed when Vale runs a biased story defaming Superman as a menace, caring more about ratings and money than the truth. Superman saves an invisible mist from being hit by a truck, but accidentally causes a crash, turning public opinion against him. Mist says Sayaban has been I don't know what that name is. Sayaban
Devon.
Saban.
Devon.
Thank you. Was kidnapped by Task Force X, and Superman offers to rescue her, only to be led into a trap. Task Force X, including Wilson and the new recruits Heatwave, Cybin, Roughhouse, Willis, and Ivo, and an upgraded Parasite armor, who were all controlled by shock collars, attack him. Though he is able to hold his own despite his weakened state, Superman is eventually knocked out by Ivo. The General stops Ivo for killing him as he wants to interrogate Superman. Mist regrets luring him into the trap as Lois and Jimmy rush to the scene, but arrive to see the group carrying Superman away. But Lois never did see the General this whole time. So like it's still reinforcing that theory that is her
Her
dad.
dad.
Because if you think about it, every time they've come into contact, she's never seen or heard him at all. So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
the animation for this fight scene was so cool in the park,
Yeah.
and they knocked it out of the park. And he even like, I don't want to say awakens his powers, but like he goes like a kind of like a Super Saiyan, like a Dragon Ball, where
Mm.
his eyes lit up blue and he got stronger for a second. That's really
Yeah,
really cool.
the look on the other guy's face.
They're like, okay,
Uh-oh.
well we've messed up.
Couple things though that I did kind of, well, one especially that I kind of picked at the episode for was they show him like geeked out on caffeine.
hmm
I don't think his metabolism would allow
Right,
for
same
him
thing with
to.
alcohol.
Yeah,
So
I don't think caffeine would have an effect on Superman. He
yeah,
would
you know,
just.
unless it was just straight espresso.
Uh, but I thought it was a really good episode. It was a really good pair of episodes. One of the other things about this one in particular, though, um, was the fact that, like you said, she's just missing
hmm
seeing the general, and I don't think they're going to swerve us. I think it's going to be her dad,
Yeah.
but I'm really hoping we get that reveal this next week. I don't want to wait till a season two.
Yeah, I don't. I think for sure it'll be this season. I don't know if it'll be next week. I imagine it will be, because it's going to be them trying to go save him from Task Force X. And but the 10th and last episode of the season is titled "Hearts of the Fathers." So I'm like,
Yeah,
that's a Superman dad reference and could be a Lois reference as well. So I mean it's and we have no idea why this general hates Superman so much either. And because every time Superman fights these guys too, he has these visions. He didn't this time, but in the episodes prior, he's had like these visions of different things. So I don't know what those are about, but I think it has something to do with his dad. Is what my guess is.
it's kind of taken from Superman and Lois in a way because you have someone who's probably going to say, "I've seen what others like him have done, other
hmm
Supermen have done," and we had that Superman and Lois storyline, right, where he kills Lois
Yep.
on John Henry Irons' home planet, and he just goes berserk. So there's this whole thing that's
And it's
very
fresh
similar
with Lois's
storyline.
mind too, with that last episode. And then Vicky Vale running this whole thing, gets Superman to do it, and she constantly is thinking back to that little pod that she's got of all the
hmm
other Earth Supermen. So I mean,
What if this is the General Lane, but it's not her General Lane? What if it's a
mm.
General Lane from that world?
See, because that would make sense too, though, because they are setting up this multiversal stuff.
Yeah,
So he came here to take down this Superman because he couldn't do it on his other planet in his
yeah.
multiverse. I like that. That's very that'd be a nice little swerve they would do.
hmm
I like that. So, but
Let's call
next,
Jack Quaid up and ask him.
yeah, let's just go ahead and just give him a little ring real quick. So
Yeah.
since he's striking as well, maybe give an answer our call. So next week will be 0 Day Part 2, and then the one after that will be the finale.
Right.
So no big news this week. We'll talk about the news and stuff next week, in lieu of saving my voice and having a lot of movies to talk about here shortly. Releases this week, Wednesday, August 23rd. The Ahsoka series starts on Disney Plus with the first. It's actually Tuesday, August 22nd, because they dropped it. I think it's like 8 or 10 o'clock our time on Tuesday, because I think they're trying to get away from their midnight releases and see how that works, which is a great thank you for that. Which I'll be watching because I'm just a sucker for that kind of stuff. But other than that, that's it.
Cool.
And the finale of Bachelorette is this week as well. But
Yeah,
to each their
but
own on that one.
people aren't going to watch.
Hey.
Um, so let's get movies started with the question we always do. Have you watched anything else?
I did last Sunday
Did
when
you?
we got back. Stella has been
Yeah.
wanting to watch the Super Mario movie.
Ah,
And it finally came out like on digital where we could watch it on I think it was Paramount Plus or Peacock, one of the Peacock I think. And that's a good movie, Chris. I give
Is
that
it?
4 stars. And we have that Peaches song, like, because I've got a playlist for Stella whenever we're driving around, and I had to add that in there. And it's fun. The animation is really, really well done by Illumination, who does like the Despicable Me and the Minions movies, and they did a good job. And I'm ready for the second one because it's a fun little movie. Chris Pratt's great, Charlie Day's great, Jack Black even better as always. But it was a very, very good movie.
I have to check it out. I was
You watched
scared.
it's good.
Did you ever see the original
No, no,
with Bob Hoskins and
no. I've seen pictures and stuff like that, but no, I have not. I have not seen that.
they also around the time that came out, I think that was around like 1990 or so. They also had a Super Mario Brothers cartoon, uh, and around that time came out with like a Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like Discord just decided to crap the bed at the 21-minute mark. Give me a second. It's booting back up. Recording is still live. Recording is
Well,
still
that's good.
live. 21 minutes. I will cut that out. Okay, we're back. You're saying the animated and then the movie came out at the same time?
Yeah, they were close together in like the late 80s, early 90s, and then they had a serial for Super Mario Brothers,
Oh,
also one for Zelda,
listen,
and
there's talk of a Zelda movie coming out, and I'm like, I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'd like to know.
yeah.
But yes, it's worth
So,
it for everybody out there.
so we're gonna talk Blue Beetle first, right?
Okay.
We're going spoiler free, so I'm just gonna read this little synopsis so everybody's on the same page. Jaime Reyes suddenly, Jaime, by the way, not Jamie, like the receptionist calls him.
Mm-hmm.
It's Jaime. Um, Suddenly finds himself in possession of an ancient relic of alien biotechnology called the Scarab. The Scarab chooses Jaime to be its symbolic host, or symbiotic host. He's bestowed with an incredible suit of armor that's capable of extraordinary and unpredictable powers, forever changing his destiny as he becomes the superhero Blue Beetle.
Mm.
I think that's a fair little synopsis.
Yes.
We don't want to
I
get too
uh
spoiler.
I like this movie. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's a classic um DC movie. Like it's weird because it's not a DCEU movie. It's not a DCU movie. But the Blue Beetle as Zolo as Blue Beetle does count as the DCU, but the movie does not count towards the DCU because it's in the DCEU. So like it's one of those. Okay, so what's right here? You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but I gave this after thinking about it, and I said the same thing to you Thursday night when we watched it. This is a 3 for 5. I mean, this is a very mid movie, and like it's not one that I'm just clamoring to go back out and watch.
So, first off, I think James Gunn did this movie a disservice by making that statement.
Yes,
And I hope what he meant was um, that there wasn't anything within the story of this that was going to necessarily carry over,
right.
but that like nothing here is meant to preview what's coming in the DCU. But the character's going to be there, and hopefully some of these other characters are as well. Um,
Let me ask you this:
I'm
George Lopez.
uh-huh.
What was your thoughts on him?
Loved it.
I okay,
Love,
thank you.
love,
I
love, love.
loved him. Jamie and Zoe, they're like, hey, we could use a lot less of him. I was like, I wanted more. Like I thought he was one of the best parts of the movie.
To reference another movie that we covered, Thor: Love and Thunder. To me, he was definitely not in the screaming goat category.
Great.
He he was he's one of the things that makes the movie. I'm probably going to surprise you here. I gave this 4.5 out of 5.
Wow, Chris.
Yeah. Uh,
4.5. Good Lord. I wasn't expecting that out of you.
I came in strong with this one. I think this might be after So in the period after the Nolan Batman
Mhm.
movies, this is maybe top three DC for me.
I can see that.
Almost certainly top five.
Yeah, I think oof,
It's
we're gonna have to do that at some point, like a ranking of
yeah.
our DCEU, what do you want to call it?
Zack Snyder's Justice League is probably at the top.
Hmm. See,
Um,
I'm between Shazam, Wonder Woman, and Superman
the
for like
first
my
Wonder
top.
Woman
The
is
first
in my
Wonder Woman
top.
is like that's a 5 out of 5 excellent movie. Like I don't think there could be anything better than that. Obviously,
And,
they did not take any of those lessons for the second one, but
right. And then it might be this one for me. I don't know. I have to figure out where.
yeah, that'll be fun to do one day. We need to go through and
Uh,
do it all.
but yeah, I came down pretty strong. I thought the special effects were really good in it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
The
they're well
practical
done.
suit, excellent.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
very good choice for that one.
The casting was really good. Let's see, I got the cast list here. Zolo's really good in the role. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you believe him as Jaime Reyes. You believe him when he's freaking out because he
Mm-hmm.
has no idea what's going on. George Lopez, we've already touched on. Uh, Bruna Marquezine as Jenny Cord,
Mm-hmm.
very good in her role. Uh, we get Belisa Escobedo, or Escobedo, as his sister.
Mm-hmm. She was
Um,
funny.
she's funny. She's got some nice little one-liners in there. Raul Trujillo is Carapax.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have a lot in the way of dialogue,
No, he was
which
just
I
your
think,
generic bruiser villain kind of character, and then you find out why he was the way he was at the end.
yeah,
But
yeah. Susan Sarandon is Victoria Court.
mm-hmm.
This is really good. She's really good at playing characters that you just. She can do both, but she's really good at playing characters that you just want to hate.
Yep, one of those
You
love to
know?
hate kind of characters.
Yeah. Um, Harvey Guillen. On the cast list here, they have him listed as Dr. Sanchez, but he made a point of saying,
Yeah, the name is not Sanchez.
no, not at all. Damien Alcazar is Alberto Reyes, Jaime's father.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. Becky G is Kaji, the
Yep,
voice of the.
just very
Uh,
random. That's a good for them for that one. But one of my first casting, but she did fine.
I'm I'm not that familiar. I heard Zach telling you that like he
She's
knew
a big
all
pop
about who she
star.
was. Yeah.
That's all I was. I
Uh,
hadn't heard of her either.
and I have to say, but before we quit on the cast list here, Adriana Barraza, who played Nana,
Mm-hmm. She was great. She was the same thing with
very
George
very good.
Lopez. She was great in every scene she was in.
Yeah, yeah. So it was well cast. I like the fact that they balanced the humor like they did.
Mm-hmm.
So like this was, and maybe that's one reason I liked it so much. It felt like prime MCU in that sense.
Yeah.
It had a nice balance of action, drama, and humor. Whereas some of the stuff I mentioned, Love and Thunder earlier, right, from the MCU lately seems to drift more towards the humor, and it's like, all right, guys,
Yeah.
like we're
Well,
we're
and
overdoing.
they recognize it now too. Well, they're like,
Yeah,
okay, we went a little too heavy on this one.
yeah, yeah. Um, I said that we in the theater. I was like, we need a second one,
Mm-hmm.
which is when I knew I liked it as much as I did because the credits had just finished, and I was already wanting to see part two. So there are two. There's a mid credits and a post credits scene.
Mid credits is probably the only one you need to stay for.
Yeah, yeah. Post credits is like they knew people would be staying, so they
Yeah.
just put something at the end. Um, but mid credits definitely stay for. Um, it's one of those two. It's going to tug at your heartstrings at a couple of points. So, um, be prepared for that if you haven't seen it yet. They do a good job though of just getting that message across, and all the actors seem to have gelled really well together to
Yeah, like,
present
and you
that
could tell they
family.
enjoy playing their characters too.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll see where they go from here. Um, the mid-credit scene leads me to think that they're going to. The reason I think that we are going to see more of these characters is the mid-credit scene because that's something that I feel like James Gunn probably saw this movie as soon as it was done.
Yeah.
And if they weren't going to go down that path, I think he would have just had that taken out. You know, like there wouldn't have been any point to have left it there. Um, because it's an unnecessary tease if you're not going to give us
Mm.
more.
So I'm curious to see what more we get from it. Because there's a lot of storylines you could do. My biggest gripe, and this is just a comic book fan standpoint, is that he is a post college graduate in this film. In the comic books, Jamie Reyes is he's still in
Jaime.
high school. Jaime Reyes is still in high school. So that's the thing. Like I was like, oh man, I would love to have the high school version of this, but I'm curious to see why they went that direction. I don't think it was a bad one. I like the high school version. That's why I like the like Spider-Man stories, is because it's just a high school student coming into his powers and
Do you
doing
think
high
they
school
went away
antics.
from it for that reason? Maybe they didn't want to.
Yeah, it'd be too relatable too comparable to Spider-Man.
I mean, he's
It's
already
a
an
yeah.
insect.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So
one of the little, I don't know why this one stood out to me, but one of the little bits of humor in the film. There's a scene in the previews, where he's standing looking out over the ocean, right? And he's
mm-hmm.
got the infinity pool behind him, and turns out he's there to clean the pool.
Yep.
Um, and he goes over to start scraping gum off the bottom bottom of a chair, and then his sister sticks more gum underneath. She's like, "It's job security, man."
The genius. Like one of the best. I think that was probably the moment I fell in love with his sister, and I loved her in the show. I was There was one part when she has a weapon, and I for sure thought she was going to flick somebody off with that weapon. The whole time they showed it, I was like, we're going to get a flip off joke. We never got it,
Yeah,
but that's what I was expecting out of it.
we won't talk about the weapon this week. We'll do it next week. But they basically just took something from the past,
Yes.
and
Yeah. So.
we'll get into that. We'll get into that next week. So you were at a 3. I came in at a 4. I think this might be the furthest apart we've been. Well, there were a couple, I think, of horror movies
Oh
that
my
we've
god.
done where I was way above where you were at
Yeah.
on the movie. But as far as superhero movies or non-horror, this might be the farthest apart we've been on a movie.
See, Shazam, Fury of the Gods. You were at 3.5. I was at 4.5. So I'm just a point. Um, for this year, it's for sure the farthest we've been apart on something. Looking through all these right now. Captain America, a point. Everything else we're pretty much on the nose with each other.
Yeah.
So,
So it's interesting. But we'll have trivia, some Easter eggs maybe next week.
yeah, well,
Um,
because they'll be more out about it too.
yeah. All right. Well, let's see. I got to get this other synopsis here pulled up.
I'm trying to see what I. Okay.
Almost clicked on Captain America Brave New World. That's not out yet.
Well, if it is, we're news to me.
It's done, right?
Right.
But I don't think, yeah. All right. Let's see. So on the rewatch of this, I have this at a 4.
That's exactly where mine's at.
I'll read through the plot right quick and get it done here. Captain America Civil War. In 1991, the brainwashed super soldier James Bucky Barnes is dispatched from a Hydra base in Siberia to intercept an automobile carrying a case of super soldier serum. In the present day, approximately 1 year after Ultron is defeated by the Avengers in the nation of Sokovia, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Sam Wilson, and Wanda Maximoff stop Brock Rumlow from stealing a biological weapon from a lab in Lagos. Rumlow blows himself up, attempting to kill Rogers. Maximoff telekinetically diverts the explosion, accidentally destroying a nearby building and killing several Wakandan humanitarian workers in the process. It's not going to be good.
Mm-mm.
Thaddeus Ross, the U.S. Secretary of State, informs the Avengers that the United Nations is preparing to pass the Sokovia Accords, which will establish a UN panel to oversee and control the team. The Avengers are divided. Tony Stark supports oversight because of his role in Ultron's creation and Sokovia's devastation, while Rogers has more faith in his own judgment than that of politicians. Meanwhile, Helmut Zemo tracks down and kills Barnes's old Hydra handler, stealing a book containing the trigger words that activate Barnes's brainwashing. At a UN conference in Vienna, where the accords are to be ratified, a bomb kills King T'Chaka of Wakanda. Security footage indicates the bomber is Barnes, whom T'Chaka's son, T'Challa, vows to kill. Informed by Sharon Carter of Barnes's whereabouts and the authorities' intentions to kill him, Rogers decides to try to bring in Barnes, his childhood friend and war comrade himself. Rogers and Wilson track Barnes to Bucharest and attempt to protect him from T'Challa and the authorities, but all four, including T'Challa, are apprehended by the Bucharest police and James Rhodes. Impersonating a psychiatrist sent to interview Barnes, Zemo recites the words to activate Barnes's brainwashing. He questions Barnes, then sends him on a rampage to cover his own escape. Rogers stops Barnes and sneaks him away. When Barnes regains his senses, he explains Zemo is the real Vienna bomber and wanted the location of the Siberian Hydra base, where other brainwashed Winter soldiers are kept in cryogenic stasis. Unwilling to wait for authorization to apprehend Zemo, Rogers and Wilson go rogue and recruit Maximoff, Clint Barton, and Scott Lang to their cause. With Ross's permission, Stark assembles a team composed of Romanoff, T'Challa, Rhodes, Vision, and Peter Parker to capture the Renegades. Stark's team intercepts Rogers' group at Leipzig-Halle Airport, where they fight until Romanoff allows Rogers and Barnes to escape. As Rogers and Barnes are escaping, Rhodes is inadvertently shot down by Vision and becomes partially paralyzed. The rest of Rogers' team is captured and detained at the Raft prison, and Romanoff goes into exile. Stark discovers evidence that Barnes was framed by Zemo and convinces Wilson to give him Rogers' destination. Without informing Ross, Stark goes to the Siberian Hydra facility and strikes a truce with Rogers and Barnes, unaware they were secretly followed by T'Challa. They find the other super soldiers have been killed by Zemo, who then shows them footage that reveals the automobile Barnes had intercepted in 1991 contained Stark's parents, whom Barnes subsequently killed. Enraged that Rogers kept this from him, Stark turns on them both, leading to an intense fight in which Stark destroys Barnes's robotic arm, and Rogers disables Stark's armor. Rogers departs with Barnes, leaving his shield behind. Satisfied that he's avenged his family's deaths in Sokovia from the Avengers' actions by successfully fracturing them, Zemo attempts suicide, but he's stopped by T'Challa and taken to the authorities. In the aftermath, Stark provides Rhodes with exoskeletal leg braces that allow him to walk again, while Rogers breaks his allies out of the raft. In a mid-credits scene, Barnes, granted asylum in Wakanda, chooses to return to cryogenic sleep until a cure for his brainwashing is found. In a post-credits scene, Parker explores the features of the web shooters built for him by Stark.
A lot of great MCU moments and things happen in this movie.
Yes.
Um, Even comic wise, I wish they kind of would have done the comic version of it all, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't think they could have done it that exact way because I've actually got it. Yeah, it's back here on my shelf. Civil War is. I should have brought that
Yep.
up here. But I really enjoyed this movie. Introducing Spider-Man, very well done. I seriously wish it was not ruined by the trailers. Um, I feel like that was one of those things that would have been a huge, 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 huge pop if they wouldn't have done it that way. Um,
Yeah.
but that's just I don't think we weren't watching these movies together then, were we? I don't think.
Mm-mm.
I forget when we started, but it wasn't.
I think this was between Hero Cravings and the podcast.
Yeah. So it was. So 2018 was Endgame.
Yeah, it was after that, right? Or it
Yeah,
was right during that.
I think it was right during this when we started up. Um, but man, this was the fight scene at the end with Tony and Cap, and like, oh, so good. Like, this one's really well done. Like, Zemo's introduced, Black Panther's introduced, Spider-Man's introduced into the MCU, and like all this spy espionage with superhero stuff. The repercussions from Age of Ultron is a big thing. It's just, oh man, it's so good. Like, it's one of my favorite ones. Like, if I had to point to a movie to say, hey, you have to watch this in the MCU, this is for sure one of them. And
Yeah.
it's just a great movie.
Yeah, I agree. Um, like you said, a lot of iconic moments. Um, a lot of things that it took a few years before they paid off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like Bucky choosing to go back to sleep and until they could find a cure for the brainwashing. We still saw effects from that even during Falcon and Winter Soldier. He's so it's Tony destroying his arm.
Right.
That's still referenced. Um, of course, this was Wanda's. This was the first movie without Quicksilver, so she's still
Mm-hmm.
in that post, like that grieving process. She makes the explosion happen by that building and
Mm-hmm. She
sets all this off, really.
had to pick between Vision and Hawkeye in the
Hmm.
compound and everything. And this is the last we see a lot of these characters until Infinity War.
Yeah.
And oh man, it's so good. Um, I don't have like a lot of my computer's bugging, so I don't want to mess with it to screw the podcast up any. So I'm on my phone. Um, not too many Easter eggs that we haven't already talked about. The code first appeared during the entry to the Siberian facility that held the Winter Soldier. The code entered seemed to be 7826. However, it's possible that letters were also included in this key code. The likely letters included were Stan, so that points out to looking like Stan Lee when you enter the code in. Pretty cool. Um, let's see. The Soviet super soldiers. The inside joke, which I think is funny. In the introduction of Peter Parker and Aunt May, Tony finds that aunt to be pretty attractive. He says it's difficult to believe that she is someone's aunt. Fans saying it's an inside joke, talking about the online discourse that people were saying when they cast her, saying, no, he can't have a hot aunt. She has to be old. And so they put that line in there. That's what they think. Um, oh, let me make sure. I think that's all I had for this movie. So nothing too crazy. A lot of comic book references.
Hmm.
Ant-Man being on the Hawkeye's arrows from a cover from the Avengers. Red Wing, we had an Age of Ultron, I believe. No. This Red Wing was this one. Crossbones was in this one. And then like one of the comic books that real popular from Civil War was the Iron Man using his hand being blast on the Captain America shield, and that being a big deal. That's a pretty cool comic cover. I read back there, but so just a great comic book series. If you're into comics, make sure you read Civil War, and if you're in the MCU, obviously you have to watch this one. So
Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple that you could probably skip,
yeah,
but this is not one of them. And for my money, neither is the next one we're going to talk
correct.
about. This takes place directly, so it takes place directly after Civil War is when it picks up. However, didn't come along for a few years. We got this in 2021.
It's supposed to be a
Black,
2020
yeah,
film.
Black Widow. Um, so let me get down here to the plot. In 1995, super soldier Alexei Shostakov and Black Widow assassin Melina Vostokov I'm gonna have fun with these names. Work as Russian undercover agents, posing as a family in Ohio with Natasha Romanoff and Yelena Belova as their daughters. They steal SHIELD intel and escape to Cuba, where their boss, General Dreykov, has Romanoff and Belova taken to the Red Room for training as widows. In the following decades, Shostakov is imprisoned in Russia, while Romanoff and Belova become successful, dangerous assassins. Romanoff eventually defects to SHIELD after helping Clint Barton bomb Dreykov's Budapest office, which apparently kills Dreykov and his young daughter Antonia. In 2016, Romanoff is a fugitive for violating the Sokovia Accords. She escapes from U.S. Secretary of State Thaddeus Ross and flees to a safe house in Norway supplied by Rick Mason. Meanwhile, Belova kills a rogue former widow but comes in contact with a synthetic gas that neutralizes the Red Room's chemical mind control agent. Belova sends antidote vials to Romanoff, hoping she and the Avengers can free the other widows, and goes into hiding. When Romanoff is unknowingly driving with the vials in her car, Red Room agent Taskmaster attacks her. Romanoff escapes from Taskmaster and realizes the vials came from Budapest. There she finds Belova, who reveals that Dreykov is alive and the Red Room is still active. Widows and Taskmaster attack them, but Romanoff and Belova evade them and meet with Mason, who supplies them with a helicopter. Romanoff and Belova break Shostakov out of prison to learn Dreykov's location, and he directs them to Vostokov, who lives on a farm outside St. Petersburg. There she's refining the chemical mind control process used on the widows. Vostokov alerts Dreykov and his agents arrive to take them, but Romanoff convinces Vostokov to help them, and the pair use face mask technology to switch places. At the Red Room, a secret aerial facility, Vostokov frees Shostakov and Belova from their restraints. Dreykov sees through Romanoff's disguise. He reveals Taskmaster is Antonia, who suffered damage in the Budapest bombing that was so severe Dreykov had to put technology in her head to save her. This turned Antonia into the perfect soldier, capable of mimicking the actions of anyone she sees. Romanoff is unable to attack Dreykov due to a pheromone lock installed in every widow, but negates that by breaking her own nose and severing her olfactory nerve. Shostakov battles Taskmaster while Vostokov takes out one of the facility's engines, and they then lock Taskmaster in a cell. Dreykov escapes. His other widows attack Romanoff, but Belova exposes them to the antidote. Romanoff copies the locations of other widows worldwide from Dreykov's computer as the facility begins to explode and fall. She retrieves 2 surviving antidote vials and frees Taskmaster from the locked cell. Vostokov and Shostakov escape via a plane while Belova takes out Dreykov's aircraft, killing him. In freefall, Romanoff gives Belova a parachute before battling Taskmaster. After landing, Romanoff uses one antidote vial on Taskmaster and gives the other to Belova, along with the locations of the other mind-controlled widows, so she can find and free them. Belova, Vostokov, and Shostakov say goodbye to Romanoff and leave with Antonia and the freed widows. 2 weeks later, Mason supplies Romanoff with a Quinjet to use in freeing the imprisoned Avengers. In a post-credit scene set after Romanoff's death, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine visits Belova at Romanoff's grave. De Fontaine blames Romanoff's death on Barton and assigns him as Belova's next target.
Which would have been a lot cooler if it aired when it's supposed to.
Yeah,
So,
that's a lot of Russian names I
yeah,
just had to.
you killed it. This one originally back in 2021 gave 4 stars. I stand by it. I still think this is a good movie. Although a lot of this we don't get payoffs to for a while, like Taskmaster, we still don't get a payoff for. Like we still have not, and it's been 2 years, which in grand scheme of things, not that crazy. But here we are.
Yeah, they slowed down the schedule, or we might have had something by now.
Yeah. Well, the next time we see her is in Thunderbolts, and who knows when we're actually going to get that, especially with the strike going on right now.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Well, I left it at my original rating of 4.5. I really liked the movie.
Yeah.
I was surprised I left it the same, because I thought my original 4.5 was probably because it had been so long since we'd gotten an
That's
MCU movie.
that's a valid point.
But no, I still enjoy it. I like the fact that it kind of fills a gap in the Black Widow story before what we know happens
Hmm.
in Endgame. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I like it. And like their attention to detail was great on this too, with her hair changing colors, because we see in Endgame and Infinity War it's all both different colors, and we see why, and it's kind of cool to see all that.
hmm
Um, Easter eggs. There's a lot that's blatantly obvious. I'm not going to cover those. But Ursa, the Great Bear, once revealed that Natasha and Yelena are headed to Russia to break Alexei out of prison, the former Red Guardian is showing off his strength by arm wrestling all comers in the prison communal area. After he brags of beating up Captain America, and he annoys a huge prisoner enough to challenge him. Alexei breaks his arm in retaliation for suggesting that he's lying. As he does so, the prisoner Ursa is called Ursa and refers to him as the Great Bear, making the unlucky prisoner the MCU's version of Ursa Major, a mutant with the ability to turn into a bear who is also a Soviet super soldier in the comics. Um, at one point, Yelena refers to Alexei as the Crimson Dynamo, which he finds insulting because it's a clever link back to another member of the Soviet super soldier serum, the super team both Red Guardian and Ursa Major are members of in the comics. Let's see. The Red Guardian's obsession with Captain America is a comic book thing. The Winter Soldier program gets mentioned. I'm trying to see if there's anything crazy. I hadn't found anything. Yeah, but
probably not.
Yelena's mini pocketed jacket from Infinity War is from this movie. So, which is like that kind of details is all I was telling you about, like the continuing things over and setting them up before they actually even happen. So,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right, well, next week we have our last Marvel week for a while.
mm-hmm.
It's going to be Black Panther and Spider-Man Homecoming. And the reason that's the last Marvel week for a while is we started last year with September doing our horror movie watch
Mm-hmm.
because 1 month's not enough.
Yeah, one
So,
month's not enough to torture me. So let's just, and we're gonna be doubling up on our weeks this year because there's
yeah,
usually have a bunch of TV shows and stuff to talk about during it, but not this year. So why not?
yeah. Um, so we'll be doing that, which means next week, not only do we have those two movies to cover, but we're going to have our uh, randomization of the three lists, my list, your list, and Jamie's list.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to determine what we watch. We know,
Wonderful.
do we want to go ahead and announce the two we know?
Yes, we can.
All right, we know we're going to talk about The Haunted Mansion, the new one, because we expect it'll be on Disney Plus in October.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that we're going to also review the latest Scream movie.
It's
So those
exciting.
two are definitely on. But like you said, we'll be doubling up because there's just nothing else going on. And even if like Loki's gonna drop, is it October?
I think it's October,
Like
but I mean,
October
even
the 6th.
still, it's like a 30, 40 minute show, and it'll be the only one. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's really not a big deal.
So looking forward to that. And no movie news this week. No movie releases this week.
And Jamie just sent her list. So wonderful, just absolutely wonderful.
For
Uh,
those that don't know, the past 2 or 3 years that we've done this through a randomizer, Tyler only ever gets like one movie picked.
mm-hmm.
It always falls on something either Jamie or I picked. So
I feel like y'all are like this Midsummer and Hereditary both have been like acclaimed as some of the scariest movies ever made. So I appreciate that.
um,
So
I will say this: if we probably need a rule in place that if one of those pops up, we might need to just watch both of them
okay,
because they're kind of similar tone, and
okay,
you'll see.
yeah, hopefully not. So But ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for listening and watching this episode of the Nerdwide Podcast. A big episode next week. We got some fun things we're going to discuss on top of setting our Halloween randomizer. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you're here for that. We really hope you enjoyed this episode, and we're glad to be back for the foreseeable future for a little bit until birthdays and things like that. But it's that time of the year. But don't forget to share it on all your favorite social media platforms. We will be going on Threads here soon, so make sure you're paying attention to that, and we'll pimp it out on all the other social medias as well.
If it ain't easy.
If it ain't easy, you know. Don't forget to share, blah, blah, blah. See, social media, you can follow Nerdwide on Twitter at nerd_wide. Follow me personally at Ty_Haynes. You can follow Chris on Threads at MavTN7. I'm on Threads at Sir Haynes. And Nerdwide will be on there again. We will post once on there. Facebook, follow us on there on our page. Search in nerdwide.com, Nerdwide Podcast, Nerdwide. First thing that pops up there. We will be posting our daily to semi-daily vlogs this week as well, so make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel, because that's the first way you know that it pops up, and on social media, I'll be sharing them around as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that has been this week's episode of the Nerdwide Podcast. We've got a really exciting week next week. We hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Until next time.
Later, guys.